What's up with it? You tuned in to another episode of Everything Boxing. I don't watch reality TV. I watch boxing. There you go talking that boxing again. And you already know how I do. When you come in the building, let me know you in the building. Put in your name and let me know where you coming from. What's up with it? Yeah, we getting it in today. What's up with it? Like I said, when you come in, let me know where you coming from. Mr. Reyes J, what it do? Kwame East, what's good with it? Money Brown TV, what's good with it? Steven Fisher, what's good with it? We finna go in today. I'm finna go in today for real. Mr. Finesse, what's good with it? And when you and share this to your boxing groups too. If you in boxing groups on Facebook, share this to your boxing group. Oh yeah, we going in, you know. Ain't no more excuses for Mr. Bud Crawford. Not on here, not on my show. We out of excuses. What's good with it, family? Chris Mitchell off in the building. Antoine Brown, what's good with it? We finna go in today, Antoine. My son in the building. What's good, Kiki? What's happening with you? And like I said, we finna get it started real soon. Just wait for some more people to get in the building. We're going to get it started up. Antoine Brown said, I'm on Buzz ass today. No more, ain't no more excuses. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all gonna be mad, but some of y'all gonna feel what I'm talking about. But it ain't gonna be no more excuses today. I'm all out of excuses. And Canelo, you know what I'm saying? We got something for his ass today, too. And the funny thing is, I'm a Bud Crawford fan and I'm a Canelo fan. But you know, I'm going to just talk about it and tell it like it is. Silver 2011 was good. Salute to you, fam. I ain't been on here, you know, the week because I had to, you know, upgrade my quality, get some new equipment and stuff. But now we ready to rumble. Corey Moore, salute. What's good with you? Like I said, I'm gonna get it started real soon for y'all. Sal Hamilton, what's good with you in the building coming from all the way from New Jersey? What's good? Okay. So, you know, if you get in, hit the like button before we even start this live stream. Hit my like button. And if you're not subscribed on YouTube, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel also. Stephen Fisher off in the building. What's good with it? So let's go ahead and get it started. So, you know, we've been sitting around. We've been talking about this for a long time now. We've been, you know, who is Bud Crawford gonna fight? Who is Terence Crawford gonna fight? Terence Crawford, he came out a while ago, and a lot of people had a problem with him saying that, you know, he probably wasn't gonna fight because he wasn't gonna take no pay cut, right? So then he come back and he back up off that, right? So we hear Terence Bud was gonna fight Pacquiao. That really didn't fall through. Then we hear Terence Bud Crawford was gonna fight Ugas. That didn't fall through. We hear Terence Bud, Cassandra Mason off in the building. We hear Terence Bud Crawford was gonna fight Sean Porter, right? That didn't fall through. Then we hear Kell Brook. That didn't fall through. So, but every time everybody got an excuse for Terence Crawford. It's always an excuse for Terence Crawford. Oh, well, you know, and I'm always making it, well, you know, it ain't Crawford's fault. You know, we fuck with Bud still. But let's keep it 100 here. Let's really get into it, you know. Bud Crawford and his team, Bomac, every time a name has come up, they got an excuse. They always got an excuse when it's an opponent that people know, when it's a tough opponent. It's starting to be, you know, this is starting to really bother me here, right? Dallas off in the building all the way from New Zealand. What's good, right? It's starting to really, really bother me here because every time it's an opponent that seems like it's a tough opponent, it's an excuse for Bud Crawford not to fight. Now, let's go down the line, okay? First, don't forget, first it was Errol Spence, right? Errol Spence offered the man 40-60. He said, because everybody was talking about Spence was ducking him, right? So Spence said, all right, bet. We can make the fight. I'll give you 40%. I'll take 60 because I'm the A side. Everybody with any common sense know that Errol Spence is the A side, right? Errol Spence, the A side. Terence Crawford, really, if you want to really get down into it, he ain't fought nobody at 147. We're not even going to talk about at 140. We just going to talk about at 147, right? He ain't fought nobody. Who the fuck is Jeff Horn? And I know, oh, well, Jeff Horn beat Pacquiao. Jeff Horn didn't beat Pacquiao. You know, I know, and everybody else know that Jeff Horn did not beat Pacquiao. Jeff Horn got a win against Pacquiao, but he didn't beat Pacquiao. Now, hit my like button. Hit the like button. If you in here, it ain't no reason for you not to have hit the like button. So, anyway, like I said, Jeff Horn ain't nobody. Amir Khan ain't been nobody in a long, long time. You can breathe on Amir Khan, and you know he going out. Ives Kavalaskis, he ain't nobody. He got his ass whooped by Ray Robinson, right? And David Benavidez, and I'm going to just bring y'all back to history because these are the fights that Terence Crawford has had at 147. So I don't know how he can say that he's the A side or he should get 50-50 against Spence, right? So he fights Ives Kavalaskis. He ain't nobody. He got whooped by Ray Robinson and got a gift decision. You know, he's nobody. So that's who he's fought at 147. So who out of those names are better than Mikey Garcia? Nobody. Who's better than Kell Brook? Nobody. Who's better than Sean Porter? Nobody. Shit, I can even name who on there is even better than Lamont Peterson. Nobody. Oh, yeah, and I think I forgot Jose Benavidez, a guy that got shot in the knee, that was out for almost 3 years and came back and only had 2 little warm-up fights against nobodies, and then stepped in the ring against Terence Crawford and actually gave Terence Crawford a hell of a fight for the first 5 or 6 rounds until his knee blew out and you could tell he couldn't move no more. But you know, so anyway, he turns down Errol Spence, right? You can't say he didn't turn down the Spence fight because Spence said, look, you take 60. You take 40. I'll take my 60 because I'm the A side. We can make the fight happen. We don't even got to wait. Other than that, we got to wait down the line for the fight to build up more. Terence Crawford say, no, I'm the A side. Nope, I don't want it. I don't need you, right? I don't need you, Errol. I'm bigger than Errol Spence. If I retire today, I can go in the Hall of Fame. I don't need Errol Spence. He needs me. So that's one fight he turned down, right? Then he talking about, okay, they bring up Danny Garcia. Well, Danny Garcia is a much bigger fighter than Amir Khan, right? You claim that you wanted to fight Danny Garcia, right? So they sent Danny Garcia $3 million to go to ESPN and fight Terence Crawford on their platform. You send that man $3 million. So Danny Garcia like, $3 million? I make $3 million to fight Rod Saka. $3 million, you want me to go over you want me to leave PBC platform, go over to your platform and fight you for $3 million? Nah, I need more money than that. So what they do? They turn around and give Amir Khan $7 million. Why? Because Amir Khan is an easy fight. Of course. That's the Terence Crawford love easy fights. That's what it's starting to look like. It's an easy fight. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, we'll give Amir Khan $7 million and lose money on the pay-per-view because Bob Arum said himself out of his own mouth that he lost money. Larry Foster was good with it. Salute. KP from KC was happening with it. He said out of his own mouth, right? This is Bob Arum, Terence Crawford's promoter. Out of his own mouth, he said that he lost money in the pay-per-view that he did with Amir Khan and Terence Crawford. Basically, he lost money on that pay-per-view. He said he didn't gain no money from that pay-per-view. He actually lost out because he had to pay somebody that nobody wanted to see fight Terence Crawford, Amir Khan, $7 million. But you offered Danny Garcia $3 million. Somebody that would have been a hell of a fight for Terence Crawford. Would have been his best opponent to date. So, turn that down. Then we hear, okay, we hear Ugas, okay? We're not going, and I'm not going to leave nobody out. We hear Ugas, you okay? Now, Ugas, we heard talks, recently in the past few months of Ugas and Terence Crawford fighting. Now, Ugas, he decided to take another route on his own. He decided to go, and fight for another title that was up vacant or whatever, a vacant spot for another title instead of going the Terence Crawford route, right? But when Terence Crawford, go back and do your homework, when Terence Crawford did an interview and he would ask about Ugas, he didn't want to fight Ugas. He didn't seem like, and basically he said he didn't want to fight Ugas. He didn't shit on Ugas. He said Ugas was a good fighter, but he basically said that wasn't the fight that he was interested in. Okay? So basically, he already had turned that fight down, So I understand why Ugas went another route, because if I'm Ugas, right, Ugas is sitting there and he's like, okay, I can either go this route and go for a title that's up, that's vacant, right? Or I can miss my chance on this title that's up, that's vacant. I could go and try to bullshit around with Terence Crawford and Bob Arum and Top Rank for me to wait around and miss my shot, for them just to turn down the fight like they did with every other fight that's been brought up. Nah, I'm cool. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to take my shot. So that's another fight, right? Then, bam, he didn't turn down everybody, okay? Everybody else is occupied. Okay, Sean Porter. Sean Porter just exposed Terence Bud Crawford. Why did Sean Porter come out recently and say that he spoke to Bud Crawford one-on-one on the phone, and Bud Crawford told him, like, look, this a fight with you right now, I don't really want no fight with you right now because we got other plans on the horizon, right? Sean Porter, like, okay, cool, I feel you. We got something that works too. So he turned down the Sean Porter fight because Sean Porter, Taiwan Terrell, that's Bud Crawford's family. He in the building. Now, you saying that Ugas got 4 losses. That don't mean nothing. Ugas is still better than anybody that Terence Crawford got on his resume. That's just the fact. So let's go back. Now, he turned down the Sean Porter fight. They say they friends, all that. Then he specifically told Sean Porter that he got something else on the horizon. Okay, cool. Bet. If you got something else on the horizon, okay, cool, bet. We understand that. Okay, cool. Okay, Terence Crawford family in the building. He's saying that Sean Porter don't have no belt. And we gonna go to that. We gonna cover all of that. I'm not gonna skip nothing, right? And he also said before in the past that Sean Porter don't have no belt. Cool, right? So basically, we sitting back, okay, what else you got on the horizon? We want to see, okay, now Kell Brook name pop up. Kell Brook, reports come out is they working on the Kell Brook fight. Bam. And I came on here and everybody was shitting on the Kell Brook fight. And y'all been watching me. Y'all see me. I came on here and I said, look, y'all can't shit on the Kell Brook fight. I said, I don't have no problem with the Kell Brook fight because, for one, Kell Brook is accomplished. Kell Brook, every time we've seen Kell Brook step up against somebody, he either beat him or give him a hell of a fight. We don't know if Kell Brook is washed up. We can't say that Kell Brook is washed up until we see him go in there and get beat. I said this, right? I didn't shit on that fight. I said, cool. Okay, bam. I'm gonna give him props. I said, and y'all can, if y'all been on here watching me, I said out of my own mouth, I said, y'all can't shit on Bud Crawford if he go in there and he beat the shit out of Kell Brook. I said, you got to give him his props. I said, but if he go in there and he have a tough fight against Kell Brook, well, Kell Brook ain't washed up, right? Right? I said, you can't shit on that, right? So, bam, we sitting back, okay, he gonna make the Kell Brook fight. I'm cool with that. Everybody was shitting on it, but it is what it is, right? Now, they come out like, oh, Kell Brook, we don't want to fight no Kell Brook. He ain't nobody. Kell Brook ain't nobody. Well, so you turned down Errol Spence because he wouldn't give you 50-50. You turned down Sean Porter because y'all friends, and then you got something else on the horizon, right? You was asked about Ugas, and you basically said you weren't interested in Ugas, right? You offered that you lowballed Danny Garcia, but gave Amir Khan 2 times more, right? You gave Amir Khan over 2 times more, but lowballed the better fighter that was going to give you way bigger numbers in Danny Garcia. That would have been a mega fight at the time, right? Now, Keith Thurman comes up. You came in the welterweight division talking about Keith Thurman, right? You came in the welterweight division. That you was asked at that point in time about Errol Spence. You said, nope, I want Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is the man. I want to fight Keith Thurman. At that point in time, Keith Thurman had to go on to face Danny Garcia to unify the belts. After Keith Thurman unified the belts with Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman never fought after that. Keith Thurman was injured. Everybody knows that Keith Thurman was injured, right? And Errol Spence, he was shitting on Keith Thurman. Everybody was shitting on Keith Thurman. But the thing is, right? The thing about Keith Thurman is whether you like what Keith Thurman was saying or whether you don't like what Keith Thurman was saying, Keith Thurman was keeping it 100. He was telling y'all the whole time, I'm injured. I'm not fighting no Errol Spence because, I'm not fighting no Errol Spence if I'm injured. He said, I'm not taking no tough fight like that. He told y'all, he said, that was going to be his get back year when he came back. Now, recently, Keith Thurman was asked about, okay, well, you turned down Errol Spence, but you took the Pacquiao fight, right? And we're going to get, and I'm leading up to Bud Crawford because we're going to get back to Bud Crawford. He was asked why he was willing to take a Pacquiao fight, but wasn't willing to face Errol Spence. And he said this. He said, look, I was injured. I told y'all there was a get back year. He said, but who was going to turn down a Pacquiao fight? I'm making much more money and Pacquiao damn near out the door, so I wasn't going to get another chance to fight Pacquiao. I probably should not have taken that fight, but I took it anyway because it was Pacquiao, right? He said, I took the fight anyway just because it was Pacquiao. Now, when you hear anybody in the welterweight division, they tell you one fight that they'll take over anybody, and all of them say Pacquiao. Bud Crawford, Errol Spence, all of them. Sean Porter, he just had an interview. He said he want to fight Pacquiao more than anybody, right? Danny Garcia, all of them guys want to fight Pacquiao. They'll take a Pacquiao fight over anybody, right? So that explains to you why Keith Thurman went out and fought Pacquiao, right? Now, Keith Thurman, he kept telling y'all he was injured. So bam, we go back. Now, Keith Thurman, he recently comes out now, right? He's still injured, but he said, look, Terence Crawford, he acting like, everybody ducking him. Everybody scared. Errol Spence, he tied up right now with Danny Garcia, right? We already know what happened between why he don't want to fight Sean Porter, right? So, bam, I'm available, November, December. You available because you keep talking about you got something on the horizon, but who do you have on the horizon? Who do you have coming up to fight? Nobody. Because at, one moment, they'll talk about it's Pacquiao, right? But then Bob Arum, he came out and he told us, look, we can't make that Pacquiao fight this year. We can't fight Pacquiao this year because of the fact that we couldn't get no foreign investors to put up the money for a Pacquiao and Terence Bud Crawford pay-per-view, right? So who does he have on the horizon to fight? He keep telling y'all, he told Sean Porter he got something else in the works. He don't want to fight Sean Porter. So who does he have? I don't understand, because once again, Bob Arum, he's telling you we can't fight Pacquiao because we talked to investors to put up money, and they don't want to put up no money for no Terence Crawford pay-per-view, right? So I'm like, damn, that fight ain't gonna happen. That will be a fight I would love to see him in, right? Okay, Taiwan Terrell, this is Terence Crawford's people, right? This is Terence Crawford's family. He in the comments, he in the building. He's saying that the Pacquiao fight is still on horizon. But we keep hearing that. Taiwan, we keep hearing that the Pacquiao fight is still on the horizon, but every time Bob Arum comes out and we ready for the fight, he tell you something different, right? He's already told us that he can't make no big fight like that in the States, in the U.S., with no crowd, right? So Bob Arum, he said that he spoke to foreign investors, maybe get the fight, overseas, somewhere else, so they could get the money that they both want. He said, didn't nobody want to invest in that fight, right? So bam, okay. Who else? So that takes to me, okay, we got Terence Crawford family in the building. He's saying the fight's still in the making, right? But to me, what it sound like to me from what Bob Arum been saying is that fight is off the table. Taiwan Terrell said they trying to get the money right. I mean, he basically done already told us that unless foreign investors put up the money that they said that that they already said they wasn't going to do, it ain't going to happen. Now, Taiwan Terrell says it's going to be overseas in the Middle East. Now, let me say this, because I'm going to get the cooking and I'm going to continue the point that I was getting at. But I'm going to say this. If they have a fight, Arizona Reggie, the family Arizona Reggie off in the building, he said Dubai. Now, if they do have a fight with Manny Pacquiao, right? If they have a fight with Manny Pacquiao, if he do get the Manny Pacquiao fight, and he fight Manny Pacquiao, and it turns out that he turned all these other fights down because he knew that he was going to get a Manny Pacquiao fight this year, right? If that turns out, I'll be the first one to come on here and be like, hey, I was wrong, and everybody else that was talking about Terence Crawford was wrong because he got the fight that everybody else in the welterweight division been wanting. He finally got the Pacquiao fight. I'll come on here. Y'all know I ain't lying. I'll come on here. Shit. Y'all know I ain't lying. I'll come on here and I would do it live and say I'm wrong. But right now, I'm saying that Terence Bud Crawford, it's looking like, and most of these dudes, if I had to put money on him to beat, I'm putting money on Bud Crawford. But for some reason, it's looking like that he turning down every single fight that's a tough fight. Right? He turning down every single fight that's a tough fight. Now, Gary Russell Jr. Now, we all know that Gary Russell is not in his weight class. We all know that Gary Russell would have to come up 20 plus pounds, 20-something pounds to even fight Terence Crawford. But with the Gary Russell Jr. Situation, a lot of people like, right? Now, you got to respect Gary Russell, first of all, because a lot of people always complain, including myself, always complain about fighters nowadays ducking, fighters nowadays not wanting to fight unless it's such and such money involved, fighters really not believing in themselves. And Gary Russell Jr. is a throwback fighter. He different. Gary Russell Jr. like, I'm a man, you a man. I don't give a fuck what weight class you in. I don't care how big you, but see, like right here, like Glenn Chatter, he said, come up 20 pounds and he laughing. You laughing, but the point that I'm making is that you laugh and shit on a fighter when he's willing to fight anybody and go up to any weight class. Y'all laugh and y'all clown, right? Like, oh, he's fucking stupid and he out of his mind and he's a clown. But then y'all same ones that laugh, you complain and you cry, right? Tyrone Terrell says Russell will get hurt, but that's beside the point, right? You complain and you cry when you hear, right? You complain and you cry when you hear about fighters not willing to fight certain fighters, when you hear about fighters wanting to stay at the same weight class their whole career. So which one do you want? Do you want somebody that has a street mentality like Gary Russell Jr. that's like, fuck that. I don't care how small I am. I'm a man and you a man. Let's get it popping. You got to respect that. You have to respect somebody with the mentality of Gary Russell Jr., right? Now, am I sitting here telling you that Gary Russell can go up 20 plus pounds and beat Terence Crawford? No, I'm not. Right? I'm not telling you that. But I'm telling you that Gary Russell Jr., you got to respect him. And if he calling out the smoke, and if it's beef like that because they have a problem with each other, right? The words that they said to each other is beyond boxing. So at that point in time, at least explore the fight. If this man is telling you, if you ain't really got if you turned down everybody else, right? You don't want nobody else unless it's Errol Spence or Manny Pacquiao, and Errol Spence got to give you 50-50, right? Ain't nobody else there. You don't want to fight nobody else. None of the other tough fights in the division, you don't want to fight. At least explore the fight. Yeah, his family in the building, and he says that they really have a personal beef going on. It's beef. That shit personal between them, right? Right? It's personal. As far as Terence Crawford with me, it ain't personal. I'm still a Crawford fan, but I want to see him fight somebody. I want to see him fight somebody because until he fights one of these top welterweights, I still got to guess, like, is he really, how good is he? I know people that I've been in the gym with that's actually sparred with him up in Colorado that says that Terence Crawford is the best fighter that they've ever seen in the ring. I've heard fighters that I personally know that said that Terence Crawford is the best fighter that they've ever seen. But they ain't never seen Errol Spence. They never seen Sean Porter. They never seen Danny Garcia. They never seen Keith Thurman. You dig what I'm saying? So, yeah, I know that he's special, but how special is he? How special is he? So at the end of the day, you got Gary Russell. He brushed that shit off and said he'll beat the fuck out of Gary Russell outside of the ring. But won't y'all get paid for it? Do I ever think that it's realistic? That's a realistic fight that's going to be made? Not really. I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I don't ever see that being as a realistic fight. But I'm saying, as Terence Crawford, you at least got to go to Bob Arum and say, look, Gary Russell wants to smoke. He talking about he can come up. Well, let's send him an offer. Let's send him a reasonable offer. If he want to come up, I know I'm the A side, send him a reasonable offer. Now, then, if they send Gary Russell a reasonable offer and Gary Russell turn it down, then you can say, he was just talking out his motherfucking ass. Forget what he talking about. He just talking out his ass, right? Now, so let's go back to Terence Crawford. He didn't turn down everybody. His family, Taiwan, in the building, he said they still working on the Pacquiao fight. I heard that too, but I didn't really want to even mention it because how many times have we heard them say that they were working on the Pacquiao fight? When I heard Bob Arum come out and say that they was looking to have the fight overseas because they absolutely wasn't going to have the fight in the States because they couldn't afford to pay Pacquiao and to pay Terence Crawford with no crowd. It make a lot of sense. I mean, shit. And Bob Arum is a businessman. That shit makes sense, right? It makes sense. You dig what I'm saying? It makes sense. You're a businessman. You don't want to have a mega fight like that with no crowd in the building because at the end of the day, you still got to pay both of these fighters. So I feel you on that. Now, you go overseas to try to get investors overseas. They turn it down. Why did they turn it down overseas? Why did they say, no, that's not a fight we're going to invest in? Because we're not going to invest in the fight because if you go back and look at Terence Crawford's pay-per-view numbers, right? And really, I really don't give a fuck about no pay-per-view numbers, right? I don't really give a fuck about no pay-per-view numbers. I'm just speaking on Bob Arum's behalf and the behalf of if I'm an investor, paying a fighter or paying fighters, right? Me, really, I just want to, shit. That ain't none of my business what money they making. But at the end of the day, it's boxing and it's reality, right? So the investors is like, well, his last pay-per-view numbers didn't do well at all. The pay-per-view that he had before that, it didn't do well at all. So we don't know if he can hold his own on pay-per-view. I think that if he fought Pacquiao, it would do very well, but they need to see that shit on paper. So they backed out like, nah, we ain't finna do it. We'll put up money for somebody like Fury and Joshua or Fury and Deontay Wilder or Wilder and Joshua, but Bud Crawford, if we look at his numbers on paper, we're not going to put up that investment because we're not about to take a chance to lose out on money, putting up this much money on a guy that hasn't proved that he can sell fights. And that's just at the end of the day, that's just the boxing business. I really don't give a damn about none of that shit, but that's just the boxing business. So I can understand why the foreign investors turned the fight down, why they don't want to make the fight. So at the end of the day, are you telling me that you're not willing to fight nobody unless it's fucking Liam or from the UK or Patrick Teixeira? These are all low-level, lower class opponents. Now, what I'm saying is, who is this man gonna fight? If it ain't I bet you if they offer him his minimum, his 3.5 minimum to fight a low budget opponent, it look like they'll take that shit real quick. Because if you look at his history, that's what his history shows. Right? Now, like I said, I will come on here and say I was wrong if Bud Crawford ends up making a Pacquiao fight. I'll be the first one to come on here, salute Bud Crawford, and say I was wrong. Now, I see somebody saying, I see his family in here talking about Indongo. Indongo is trash. Julius Indongo is trash, right? Let's talk about let's talk about. I just seen Indongo. I lost the comment, so I didn't really see exactly what he said about the Indongo. But let's talk about Indongo, right? Let's go back to Gary Russell Jr., right? Tap in, subscribe to the channel, right? Everything Boxing and Sports on YouTube, and hit my like button, right? Now let's go back to Julius Indongo. Terence Bud Crawford, he was able to fight Julius Indongo, right? I think Julius Indongo had two belts at the time, right? Okay, Tyron said Julius Indongo was trash. Yeah, he's trash. He's trash. But I'm going to get to what I was saying anyway. Julius Indongo had 2 or 3 belts. Terence Crawford was able to fight him to become undisputed. Now, let me tell you something. Gary Russell Jr., now, right, because since we gonna talk about how Terence Crawford won undisputed, right? Julius Indongo fucked around, and I don't know how he had 2-3 belts, right? He beat Ricky Burns, which was washed up by that time when Julius Indongo beat him. Ricky Burns was washed up, right? So Terence Bud Crawford and Bob Arum, they made a smart move. Like, damn, this bum got a belt. We about to come undisputed because this is an easy win for us right now, right? Julius Indongo, right? Taiwan Terrell, this is Terence Crawford's family right here. This is Terence Crawford's cousin. He says Indongo was getting beat up by the kids here in Omaha. That's how trash Julius Indongo was. Now, Julius Indongo was a smart move for Bud Crawford and Top Rick, because who wouldn't have fought Julius Indongo? But this is all I'm saying, right? Bud Crawford laughed off Gary Russell Jr. because he way too small. I'll beat the shit out this man. But I'm telling you right now that Gary Russell Jr. will beat the shit out of Julius Indongo. Ain't no way nobody in here will put money on Julius Indongo to beat Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr. will beat the shit out of Julius Indongo. So all I'm saying is that you fought Julius Indongo. Of course, he had the belts, and that was a smart move. And you beat the shit out of Julius Indongo like you were supposed to. Well, Gary Russell better than him, so at least acknowledge that, man, because y'all got real beef. I think that the beef that Gary Russell Jr. has with Terence Crawford, the beef that they have will make for a big fight, because you know that Gary Russell Jr. is going to come and talk a whole bunch of shit. Terence Crawford don't really talk too much of shit, but since they got beef, Terence Crawford going to talk shit that you never heard him talk about Gary Russell Jr. And then they going to bring up old shit that happened that nobody know about but them and people that was in the amateurs with them. That will make a big fight. You dig what I'm saying? So at least acknowledge that fight. So now, why does Errol Spence got to fight all the hard opponents while Terence Crawford get to sit back and call the shots and coast? Right? Why? Nobody in this building, and you know, everybody like to bring up Terence Crawford's accomplishments. When you have the skills that Terence Crawford has, when you the level of fighter that Terence Crawford is, if you go back and look at his opponents, his resume, when you the level of fighter that Terence Crawford is, ain't nobody on his resume ever should have beat him at 140, right? When you go back, Howard Spence said, okay, Tyron Terrell. Let me get into that. You said that Spence said that he's taking the easy route, right? And a lot of people say that shit all the time. Well, Spence said that he was taking the easy route, right? Now, let me explain to y'all that maybe didn't know, or the ones that want to act like they didn't know what he was talking about when he said the easy route. Errol Spence said, why would I go over there and fight you when I could stay over here on the PBC, right? And fight where Keith Thurman is, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, where all these, I could stay over here and take the easy route, because it's going to be hard for me to wait around for Bob Arum to make a deal with PBC and PBC to make a deal with Bob Arum when I could just make these fights over here. It's already belts on my side. All the belts, except for that one belt that's on your side, all the belts over here. Why would I go over my way, waste my time and skip them when these are the fighters that I've been wanting to fight before you even got in the welterweight division? Before you came in the welterweight division, I was calling out Danny Garcia. I was calling out Keith Thurman. I was calling out Sean Porter. They're right here next to me. These are fights that's right here that's easy to be made. I don't have to wait for them to make a joint pay-per-view with ESPN and PBC. I don't have to argue with them about the pay-per-view split and who gonna make what. I don't have to go to Fox and beg for them to make this fight. I can go over here because this is the easy route and I can make this fight. And then if you as good as you say you are, you still gonna be there. But in the meanwhile, if you want to take this 60-40, I'll whoop your ass for this 60-40 and we can make the fight down. Right? So you can't say that he was saying, I'm going to take the easy route because you're too hard for me to fight. No, that's not what he was saying. He said, I'm going to take the easy route because this fight, these fights over here that I've been eyeing before you got to the welterweight division are still here and they easy for us to make. That fight with you is hard for you to make. And later on, Errol Spence proved what he said, because when he offered Terence Crawford 60-40, and when Terence Crawford said, no, I'm not taking no fucking 60-40, I'm taking 50-50 because I don't need you and I don't even want to fight if it's not 50-50. He proved what he said when he was talking about taking the easy route. So let's debunk that whole theory right there, because y'all tried to flip it and make it like he was saying like, oh, no, I'm scared. I don't want to fight you because these guys are easier than you. Fighting the Sean Porter, right? I'm going to tell y'all, anybody that's been in the ring with Sean Porter, ain't nowhere in the hell Bud Crawford is a harder fight than fighting Sean Porter, right? Because, and this is what I'm saying about this. I'm not saying that Sean Porter is a better fighter than Bud Crawford. And I'm not saying that Bud Crawford is a better fighter than Sean Porter. What I'm saying is, as far as a hard, grueling fight, don't nobody want to get in the ring, just fuck it and fight Sean Porter like that. You know what I'm saying? If Sean Porter don't have no belt, don't nobody really want to fight Sean Porter like that. You feel? Terence Crawford showed you that he didn't want to fight Sean Porter. When he told Sean Porter himself, nah, I'm good. I got something else on the horizon. We friends, but we don't never talk to each other. Come on now. Man, y'all tripping. Let me get through some of y'all comments. So, Daniel Porro says Bud next fight will be Jose Ramirez. Man, that top ranked diet. Keelan Powell says Bud beats Gary though, but until Bud versus Spence, Bud needs to fight. I don't trust Manny to fight Bud or Errol. Man, I'm gonna tell y'all like this. I talked to Errol Spence personally at the, when was it? One of them fights in Vegas. I interviewed Errol Spence and I talked to him, and I'm just talking to, I don't know if it was on camera or off camera. I got this. I had to go back and look, but I'm chopping it up with Spence. And Spence at the point in time, he was, like he was big on Manny Pacquiao. And I said, look, Manny Pacquiao not going to fight you, EJ. I said, he's not going to fight you. He said, nah, Manny will fight anybody. I said, you really believe that Manny Pacquiao fight you? He's like, hell yeah. He said, Manny don't duck no smoke. Manny going to fight anybody. I said, he not going to fight you. I said, Manny Pacquiao don't want to fight you. He said, nah, I think Manny will fight me. Manny will fight anybody. Now, Errol Spence had to double back and basically admit what I had told him way back then, that Manny Pacquiao wasn't going to fight him. Errol Spence said recently, y'all know what he said. He said, damn, I just realized that Manny Pacquiao played me. He been ducking me this whole time. And I'm like, shit, I told you that. I've been told you that way back then he wasn't going to fight you. Now that he not going to fight Errol Spence, do y'all really think that they're going to really be able to make a Manny Pacquiao Bud Crawford fight? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. You know what I'm saying? I highly doubt. But, we have to see. I highly doubt it. Different styles of fights. Keelan Powell says, I would pay for Bud versus Porter, Bud versus Keith, Bud versus Danny, Bud versus Kel. Them are all good fights. We never seen him in a fight with nobody like that. Everybody like to bring up, right, when you talk about Terence Crawford's resume, they say, well, he beat Victor Postol. He beat Victor Postol at 140 to become champ at 140. And I'm like, okay, Victor Postol beat who? Victor Postol, what did Victor Postol do to be nothing more than a great white hype for HBO? That didn't last long. Let's keep it 100, right? Let's keep it 100. Taiwan Terrell, I want you to hear this. Let's keep it 100. Right? Because people always like to dissect resumes and go down who Errol Spence then fought and this, and that. Let's keep it 100. Right? Let's keep Victor Postol. Right? A lot of people say that was the best fighter on Terence Crawford's resume. He fought Victor Postol. He beat Victor Postol when none of them other dudes wanted to face Victor Postol, right? Now, let's talk about what Victor Postol did in his career. Victor Postol beat one fighter, Lucas Matisse, right? He beat Lucas Matisse. And then he went on to be HBO's Great White Hype because he beat Lucas Matisse. Now, let's talk about Lucas Matisse. Lucas Matisse already had been beat by an older Zab Judah. He already had been beat by Devin Alexander. Lucas Matisse, and he had been beat by Danny Garcia, the same fighter that you would later on in your career lowball, right? So Lucas Matisse already had been beat 3 times. And right before he fought Victor Postol, I think he took a long layoff. Fought Victor Postol, but before he fought Victor Postol, he had got beat by Danny Garcia. Right? So we're talking about the same Lucas Matisse that already had got beat by Devin Alexander, an older Zab Judah, and a Danny Garcia at 140 pounds, right? So Victor Postol goes on to give Lucas Matisse not his first loss, because everybody trying to act like Victor Postol gave Lucas Matisse his first ever loss, right? No, he gave Victor Postol his fourth loss. His fourth loss. So he beat Victor Postol, he beat one decent opponent, right? Right? Then he went on to face Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford outboxed Victor Postol. He didn't beat the shit out of him. He didn't stand toe-to-toe with him. He outboxed him and beat him, right? Outboxed him and beat him, right? Victor Postol, after that, went on to lose again. He went on to lose to a guy that only had 11 fights on his resume at the time, and that was Josh Kelly. So, for those who don't know, now you know. Josh Kelly beat the same Victor Postol that Terence Crawford got so much praise for beating, right? With only 11 fights under his resume at the time. So, let's go back and talk about Victor Postol. Was Victor Postol that good? He was decent. I'm not going to say Victor Postol is trash. But I'm saying, was Victor Postol that good for them to be telling you when you bring up Terence Crawford's resume and who he's fought? Is he that good to be saying like, oh, well, he beat Victor Postol? Victor Postol was this. No, Victor Postol wasn't this and he wasn't that. Victor Postol was a decent fighter that he beat, just like a whole bunch of other decent fighters that he beat on his resume. He ain't never beat no great fighter. He's never been in the ring with a great fighter. Then they tell you, well, what about Gamboa? Gamboa was younger back then. He beat Gamboa. Well, then I got to say, well, right? He don't want to fight Gary Russell Jr. Gamboa, at the time, Terence Crawford is what? 5'8", 5'9", right? Almost 5'9", right? Terence Crawford is almost 5'9" if he's not 5'9", right? Gamboa is 5'5", 5'4", 5'5", the same height as who? Gary Russell Jr., right? Now, Gamboa at the time, still the same 5'5". Gamboa at the time was coming off an almost 2-year layoff, and he was coming up in weight, right? He was coming up in weight and coming up a almost 2-year layoff, right? Now, Gamboa ended up, he ended up fighting Gamboa and get knocked out by Gamboa. So people like to say, well, he knocked out Gamboa. Gamboa damn near dropped him. He had Bud Crawford very hurt in that fight. Now, everybody know about that, right? Now, Gamboa, like I said, once again, Gamboa was coming off a long layoff, and he had to come up in weight, right? Now, let me tell y'all how y'all like to move the goalpost when it's a fighter that you like, right? Because if I bring up, right, when I say I'm a Lomachenko fan. Now, when I say Lomachenko beat the shit out of Nicholas Walters, you know what they'll tell me? Well, Nicholas Walters was coming off a long layoff. He only beat Nicholas Walters because Nicholas Walters was coming off a long layoff. Well, Gamboa was moving up in weight and coming off a long layoff. So, now, everybody say, I see Tyron Terrell said, well, Gamboa was a beast. Now, Gamboa was a beast in the professional ranks, or was Gamboa a beast in because if you're saying that Gamboa was a beast, are you talking about the professional ranks, or are you talking about his amateur rank when he was an amateur? Because we know that Gamboa has one of the best amateur pedigrees out there, right? But as far as the professionals, let's talk about who Gamboa beat, because Gamboa really, when he fought Bud Crawford, he really hadn't really beat nobody but what's the dude, the same dude that beat Lomachenko, Orlando Salido. That's the only really big name leading up to Bud Crawford that I know that Gamboa had beat that I could think of right off the top of my head. Who else had Gamboa beat leading up to Bud Crawford other than Orlando Salido that probably already had 10 or 11 losses on his resume, right? Let me see. Who else did Gamboa beat at that point in time? I'll wait. Let me pull it up myself and see. Okay, hold on. Bam. Okay, here it is right here. Gamboa's record, right? Leading up to Gamboa's fights leading up to fight Terence Bud Crawford. He fought Weiber Garcia, never heard of him. Roger Matagwe, never heard of him. Jonathan Barrows, never heard of him. Hold on. Get this shit. Hold on, y'all. All right. He fought, let me see. He fought, hold on, man. Damn. I keep getting this advertisement pop up over the record, so I can't see it. Hold on. I'm trying to fix this real quick. Let me try to pull it up on my other phone. But anyway, anybody like I said, while I'm looking this up, tell me who he fought besides Salido at that point in time. So, okay, Taiwan Terrell says Salido beat Lomachenko, right? The last time I checked is Salido actually leading up to the Gamboa fight. He already had 10 losses. Lomachenko and Bud Crawford are not the same size. They're not the same size. You can't compare Salido losing to Gamboa. I mean, come on, you can't compare Bud Crawford to them. You can't compare Bud Crawford to a Lomachenko. They're not even near the same size. But I mean, like I said, hold on. Let me see. Real quick, I'm going to pull it up for y'all, and we're going to go down Gamboa's resume to see why Gamboa, Gamboa, no, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Gamboa is a shitty fighter. All I'm saying is who did you beat and what have you done leading up to for people to go back and say, well, he beat Gamboa? Because if you want to compare resumes, Gamboa ain't better than nobody, is not better than none of the top opponents on Errol Spence's resume, or Danny Garcia's resume, or Sean Porter's resume, or Keith Thurman's resume. So let's talk about who he beat. Okay, leading up, he said Walter Estrada, Jose Rojas, Weiber Garcia, Roger Matagwe, Jonathan Victor Barrows. These are all the opponents that Gamboa beat leading up to to face Terence Bud Crawford, right? He beat Orlando Salido, or Salido at that time was 35 wins, 10 losses, and 2 draws. He beat Jorge Solis, right? He beat Daniel Ponce de Leon. Adrian Broner beat Daniel Ponce de Leon at the time. At the time, Daniel Ponce de Leon had already 3 losses, but he was a solid opponent. He beat He beat Michael Frenos. I don't know who that is. He beat Darlish Perez, and then he fought Terence Crawford, right? He went on to fight, after he lost to Terence Crawford, he went on to fight Joel Montez. He went on and he beat him, right? This is Gamboa's record. He went on to fight Highland Williams Jr. He beat him by unanimous decision. He went on to fight Rene Alvarado. He beat him by unanimous decision. He went on to fight Robinson Castellanos, and he lost to Robinson Castellanos, right? And then he ain't fought really nobody else until he went on to lose to Gervonta Davis, right? Now, all I'm saying is when you say that he beat Gamboa and he beat Victor Postol, when you go back and you look at what Gamboa had done and what Victor Postol had done, they really had did shit. For people to be putting Victor Postol and Gamboa as like, oh, well, he beat them. Now, if you go to other opponents and you say Kell Brook, you say, well, Kell Brook beat Sean Porter, right? Okay, but damn. You go to Danny Garcia, right? You say, well, Danny Garcia, he beat Amir Khan when Amir Khan was at the top of his game, right? Right? You go to Errol Spence. You say, well, Errol Spence beat Sean Porter at the very top of his game, and he beat Kell Brook. Okay, bam. You go to Sean Porter. You say, well, Sean Porter beat Danny Garcia, and he fought Keith Thurman and gave him a hell of a fight. You go to Keith Thurman. You say, well, Keith Thurman, he was a beast. Keith Thurman beat Sean Porter, and he beat Danny Garcia. Back to back. Now, then, so let's just compare. Then you go to Terence Bud Crawford. You say, well, who did he beat? Well, he beat Gamboa, and he beat Victor Postol. And then you go back and you look and you compare. You're like, damn. My nigga really ain't fought nobody, because you can't even compare them opponents to the other opponents that these other guys are beating. So let's keep it 100. At the end of the day, your man, Bud Crawford, needs to fight somebody. If he don't get a Pacquiao fight, that, you know, I guess Taiwan say that's what they waiting around for. That's what they in the works. If that fight don't happen, it's a problem for Terence Bud Crawford. And he cannot, if that fight don't happen, I don't want to hear him saying nothing about Errol Spence. Unless Errol Spence just want to voluntarily fight that man, I don't want to hear Terence Bud Crawford talking nothing about Errol Spence no more. Because you cannot sit around and watch this man, Errol Spence, fight all of the top tough opponents, and you sitting around with your arms crossed, and you don't got to do nothing but sit there and turn down fight after fight after fight, and for everybody to continue to give you excuses. It's over. The excuses is over. Your time is up. You ran out of free passes. Now you have to fight somebody. Let's keep the same energy that we do with Terence Bud Crawford that we do with everybody else. When I come on here and I talk about Tank Davis, I talk the same shit. You got to fight somebody. Terence Bud Crawford is damn near 33 years old. He has to fight somebody. Let's not keep talking about everybody ducking him. Right? I just went down the whole timeline for y'all. I proved that everybody's not ducking him. He got to fight somebody. That's just what it is. Mike Rhythm said he's trying to get that bag before he get knocked out. Now, another thing I want to say. They say pound for pound, I don't agree. A lot of people do say he pound for pound. But with the level of opponents that he's fought, how can you be pound for pound if we don't even know if you're the best fighter in your division yet? How? I don't understand. That's top rank. That's top rank doing great promotions, putting you in the ring with the right opponents to do the right things against the right opponents, because he's a hell of a talent. It's no denying that. He got skills, he got power, he got footwork. But at the end of the day, when you fighting the top level guys, they got great, they do great things on their own. They got certain things that they do great, just like you do. Now that's when you test your skills. But if you've been in here with C level, B- level opponents your whole career and down, how are you going to test your skills? How you know how good you are? That's all I'm saying. Fight somebody. That's all I want to. That's all I want to. You have to fight somebody. Your next fight. It's no more tune-up fights. I don't even want to see him go on there and say, "Hey, we couldn't get the Pacquiao fight, so we got to fight this dude fucking we got to fight this dude over here in the UK because we couldn't get the Pacquiao fight." I don't even want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear it. I'm not hearing that. That's it. You got to fight somebody now. Sean Jackson says Jeff Horn is fighting Costa Zoo son next week. Yeah, Jeff Horn is not a good fighter. Jeff Horn is cool. He gritty, you know what I'm saying? He's Jeff Horn. I mean, nobody's gonna put their money. I'm gonna say it like this: when people look, well, he went to welterweight, he beat Jeff Horn. Ain't nobody gonna put their money up on Jeff Horn to beat Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Pacquiao, injured Keith Thurman, or Errol Spence. Nobody's gonna put their money up on Jeff Horn. So that Jeff Horn shit, I don't want to hear nothing about no Jeff Horn. So if Terence Crawford come back and say he's fighting fucking Clayton, an undefeated fighter from Canada, Clayton, that nobody never heard of, or Shoninan from fucking South Africa that nobody never heard of, I'm not going to watch that shit, and I don't want to hear nothing about it. He got to fight somebody. That's all I'm saying. He got to fight somebody. That's all I'm saying. Hold on, man. This new computer I got is a beast. This motherfucking quality on here. This quality on here. I know y'all can see the quality way better than it was. But Cassandra Mason says, yeah, bottom line, Bud has to fight a top welterweight. If the Manny fight doesn't come through, then he should go fight one time. Yeah. I think I skipped one time. One time called him out. Keith Thurman. Let's before I move on to Canelo Alverez, right? Keith Thurman recently called him out. You've been talking about that you wanted to fight Keith Thurman ever since you came in the welterweight division. Keith Thurman say, send him a contract and he'll sign that bitch on live in front of everybody. If you think he playing, and Keith Thurman ain't even 100%, but he said he'll still get in the ring and fight you. So, bam. Bomac, before Keith Thurman said anything, or before they even heard anything about any type of money that Keith Thurman was wanting, Bomac, he came and spoke for Terence Crawford. And he said, look, Keith Thurman, we don't want to fight no Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman ain't got no belt. Keith Thurman ain't nobody. But this is the same Keith Thurman that you said that was ducking you. This is the same Keith Thurman that you said that you've been wanting to fight for years and for years. But now when the man call your bluff and say, look, send me the contract and we can get it popping. Then you say, oh, Keith Thurman ain't nobody, right? Now they talking about, oh, well, Keith Thurman, he want too much money. I knew that was coming. I already knew it was coming. They was going to use the, oh, well, Keith Thurman want too much money, right? So they come out with reports. I don't know, Leon Robinson, what's good with it? Corey Moore off in the building, what's good with it? Mike Ryan, Ron Donald, Daniel, what's good? Okay, they come out. Wait, hold on. I already said that. You might be late, Ron Daniel. I talked about the way that PBC and Top Rank work. When I talked about that, when Errol said about him taking the easy route instead of having to go over there and do business with Top Rank. I talked about that a little bit. But anyway, like I said, they come out and they say, oh, well, Keith Thurman said he wanted, Keith Thurman said that he want 10 million. Now, if it's true that Keith Thurman want 10 million, I don't know. I ain't heard Keith Thurman say nothing about no 10 million. But if Keith Thurman want 10 mil and you talking about that you been wanting to fight Keith Thurman, okay, cool. What's wrong with him wanting 10 mil? Go and negotiate with that man and see what number y'all can come up with, right? Keith Thurman ain't making nothing right now. You ain't making nothing right now. Let's see what, but y'all blew it off. Oh, he wants 10 mil. He don't really want no fight. He don't really want to fight. Well, Bomac, he came out and he says, well, let's see. We ain't gonna make no move. Bob Arum, remember us over here on Top Rank, we not gonna make no move to fight Keith Thurman. Let's see if let's see if PBC can come up with the money to fight Keith Thurman. Let's see if PBC can come up, if they'll come up with the money to pay Keith Thurman and to pay Terence Crawford. So now, right? Now all of a sudden, it's okay for Al Haymon to do all the business. All of a sudden, it's okay for Al Haymon to do all the business. But before, it wasn't okay. Right? Before Top Rank, they wanted to run the show. Right? But now, all of a sudden, it's okay to hand all the business over to Al Haymon to do the business. Come on now, miss me with that bullshit. Miss me with that bullshit. If a fighter or a promoter has the history, you got to go back and you got to look at the timeline. And what does the timeline say? The timeline say that's bullshit. What Bomac talking about, like, oh, we gonna sit back and we'll let Al Haymon, you know what I'm saying? We'll let him see if he can come up with the money. Top Rank ain't never ever in the history of Top Rank set to the side and said, we don't want to have nothing to do with it. We just go sit back and see if y'all can come up with the money. When did they start doing that? So back to what I said originally. It's always an excuse for Terence Bud Crawford if it's a top level opponent on the table. It's always an excuse when it's a top level opponent on the table. Right? It's always an excuse. That's what it's looking like. That's what it sounded like. But let the number 11th ranked opponent, right, in the WBO, Clay, or let Mickelson or let Zuski come up and say that they want to fight with Terence Crawford. I bet you they'll take that fight real quick. Oh, yeah, Terence Crawford's fighting Clay. Clay who? Clay, Maurice Claiborne from the Dallas Cowboys? No, he's an undefeated fighter that's ranked 11. Well, he's 13-1 with the WBO. Terence Crawford, he can fight Clay. I bet you they'll take that fight real quick. So, like I said, if Terence Crawford don't get that fight, like Taiwan, You know what I'm saying? Like my man Taiwan, he that's Terence Crawford's cousin. You know, that's Terence Crawford's family. You know, he was in the building and he's swearing up and down that they still working on the Pacquiao fight, right? And he got to go with Terence Crawford. Of course, that's his family. He got to take up for Terence Crawford 100%. So I'm telling y'all one last time before I get on Canelo Alvarez's ass. If Terence Crawford end up and we don't see a Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford fight this year, I don't want to hear shit else about Bud wanting to fight Errol Spence, because Bud is either not going to fight nobody or he going to come with an opponent named Clay that you never heard of ever in boxing before, right? I don't want to see no more of that shit. He got to fight somebody that's a big name, or he might as well not fight at all, because I don't want to see it and I don't want to hear about that bullshit. Straight up, ain't no more excuses. From here on out, it ain't no more excuses for Terence Crawford. It ain't no more, well, I fuck with Bud Crawford, because I say that shit up. Well, you know, I fuck with Bud Crawford. I still fuck with him, but no, it's no more buts and it's no more excuses. For real. If he don't fight, if he don't get that Manny Pacquiao fight, right? And he don't come around with a big name opponent, I don't fuck with no Bud Crawford no more, because he shouldn't get a pass. He shouldn't continue to get passes, and everybody else, you know what I'm saying, got a bullseye on their back, and we got to shit on everybody else because they don't take big fights, right? If he don't get that Pacquiao fight, we got to call him, you know what I'm saying, instead of Terence Bud Crawford, Terence Bomb Killer Crawford. But, you know, we going to see. And like I said, y'all mark me to this word. Like I said earlier, if he do end up getting a Pacquiao fight, I will be the first to come on here live and tell y'all, hey, I apologize. I will apologize. I'll come on here and I say, hey, Bud Crawford, you know, I understand why he held out and he turned down 15 other opponents. You know what I'm saying? Because he was getting the Pacquiao fight and working on the Pacquiao fight the whole time, right? I'm going to root for Bud Crawford to beat the shit out of Pacquiao, and that's just what it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? But if he don't, I'm on his ass. And that's just what it is. If this was Errol Spence, if this was Sean Porter, I didn't get on Danny Garcia for ducking people. I'm going to be the same. It ain't personal. It's just boxing. Dayton Henry Jr. said Broner fought more names at 147 than Bud did. Hey, that's a fact, though. That's a fact. You know what I'm saying? World Combat Sports off in the building. My man BFTB off in the building. Salute, fam. Everybody go subscribe to World Combat Sports and go subscribe to my man BFTB. Hey, if y'all want hot content and dope ass shows, go subscribe to them 2 channels. You know what I'm saying? We all got to support each other. Everybody go in there, subscribe to BFTB Boxing, and go subscribe to World Combat Sports. Yeah, but now let's move along. Let's move along. Now, let's talk about Canelo Alvarez. I've spent a lot of time on here defending Canelo Alvarez. Let me just go over my history with Canelo Alvarez before I start cooking, so you can understand where I come from with Canelo Alvarez, right? So I'm gonna give y'all my history on Canelo Alvarez. I started out a huge Canelo fan. I thought I loved Canelo was coming up. I'm like, this dude's the truth. I fuck with Canelo. Always was I never liked Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Because if you remember, it was kind of like a thing between Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Canelo Alvarez. They was like who was going to be the next big Mexican superstar. Me, I went on a Canelo Alvarez train. I never liked Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I always thought he was shit. And I thought Canelo Alvarez was the real truth. I always fuck with Canelo, right? Canelo went on to have some big fights. Canelo fought Floyd Mayweather. Of course, I'm going for Floyd Mayweather. I went to that fight. That fight was crazy. That fight, I remember to this day, I was at that fight when it was crazy, right? Anyway, of course, I'm going for Mayweather against Canelo, but at the point in time, I'm still a Canelo fan. He fights Lara. I think that he got a gift decision against Lara, but I'm still fucking with Canelo, right? Then move along. To me, I stopped fucking with Canelo when I noticed that Canelo started making his own weights up, making people, you know what I'm saying, make 155 and 156 when he's supposed to be fighting at 154. You know, Canelo doing all this fuck shit. So I'm like, man, I can't. And he ducking the Charlos at 154. You know, he get gift decisions. So I start kind of like not fucking with Canelo no more. You know what I'm saying? And then at one point in time, I'm like, man, he ducking Triple G. Like Triple G will beat the fuck out of Canelo. Because Canelo went a long span before he really fought anybody that was, that was in their prime or anybody at that level. He was fighting fighters past their prime and beating up on them and, you know, doing this and that. So I'm like, man, I can't really fuck with Canelo because I got a boy. He buy Canelo clothing. That's he like Canelo everything to him. And so me and him will always go back and forth because I'm like, man, Canelo on that bullshit. I'm like, he a cool fighter, but he ain't as good as you think he is. And my man's is like, nah. Canelo then got way better than he was back when he fought Mayweather. Like, and I'm like, well, how we know? He ain't fighting nobody. He fighting a washed up, you know what I'm saying? He fighting motherfuckers like Liam Smith, and he fighting small opponents like Cotto that's old and washed up. And I'm like, you don't know how you gonna say that he way better than what he was back then. So these are arguments that me and him have. So right. And I'm like, and he ducking Triple G. He don't want to fight Triple G, right? So bam, fast forward. They finally make the Triple G fight. I'm like, okay, Canelo finna get knocked out. I'm like, Triple G finna beat the fuck out of Canelo, right? He goes on, and I had $10,000 bet on that fight, right? I had $10,000. I had 10,000 if Canelo get the knockout. And if Canelo won, I get 5,000. So me and my boy had a 10,000 bet on that fight, right? Me and my partner. We had big money riding on that fight. Because me in my mind, I'm like, it ain't no fucking way that Canelo gonna beat Triple G because he been fighting motherfuckers like Liam Smith, you know, and fighting dudes that's old and washed up. Ain't no way he gonna go and beat Triple G. Dom Reeks in the building. I see you. Some guy in the building. I see you. So, right. So I'm like, bam, we got a bet. So we watching the fight. And the first Triple G fight, after the fight, I'm pissed off because, you know, I didn't win no money. I didn't lose no money. It was a draw. So neither one of us had to pay out. It was a draw. But I'm pissed off at the beginning because I'm like, man, Triple G won that damn fight. I'm pissed. So, like I always do, I always go back and I watch fights. All the time. Fights like that, I always go back and I watch them and I study them. Ended up watching that fight like 6 times, studying the fight. And when I rewatched the fight, I said, damn, I was wrong. I said, Canelo, actually, the fight was a draw. I said, I didn't see Canelo winning. I said, I actually scored that fight 6 rounds to 6. I had that fight dead even a draw. I called my partner and I said, damn, you know what? I said, because my partner, he thought he got away lucky with one. And I'm like, you got to go watch that fight. I said, yo, boy, Canelo actually did a lot better than I thought he did. I said, he actually got a draw in that fight. So he went back and watched it. He like, damn, that fight was hella close. You right. So I saw a lot of things that Canelo did in that fight that I liked. That point in time, I changed my outlook on Canelo. I said, I kind of fuck with Canelo. Okay. Canelo, nice. Like, he showed up and he proved to me that I've been wrong about him all of these years. Right? I said, Canelo, nice. Canelo, I've been wrong about him. I kind of fuck with Canelo. You know what I'm saying? I'm the type of dude, if you prove me wrong like that, I fuck with you. Like T.O. I hated T.O. back in the day. When T.O., I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan, but when T.O. went and stood on that star, first time he did it, I'm pissed. Then they couldn't stop him. I'm like, this nigga right here is a motherfucking truth. I said, ever since then, I fuck with T.O. I said, you can't stop him. He proved me wrong, right? So that's just the person I am, right? He proved me wrong. Canelo proved me wrong. I seen a whole lot of things I liked in him that he did that people really didn't notice in that first Triple G fight. So I said, bam, I'm going to fuck with Canelo now. Second fight come around, I'm like, I know Canelo going to beat Triple G this second fight because I know Canelo's a better boxer. I see Canelo that improves his defense. I see Canelo's counterpunching improve. And he can stand in the pocket like Floyd Mayweather and shoulder roll the shit out of you and counter you all night. So Canelo got skills. Canelo went on and he did exactly what I thought he was going to do in the second Triple G fight. Beat Triple G, but no, let me back up. He actually did more than what I thought he was going to do because he walked Triple G down and beat Triple G at his own game. From then on, I fuck with Canelo. People were shitting on Canelo. I'm defending Canelo. Like, nah. When Canelo took a fight against, Canelo taking fights people don't want to see, and they shitting on him. Then he fights Daniel Jacobs. I'm like, see, what I tell y'all? Canelo took a fight against Daniel Jacobs that didn't nobody think he was going to take. Canelo's the truth. Y'all got to stop shitting on Canelo. That man is the motherfucking truth. He goes on to beat Daniel Jacobs. People shitting on Canelo. I'm still defending him, right? He beat Sergey Kovalev, right? People like, why he picked Sergey Kovalev when he could have picked when his other dudes at 168, you know what I'm saying? That he could have picked. He could have fought Bitter Biedev. You know what I'm saying? Why he ain't fought Bitter Biedev? He could have fought Volzdik. Why he ain't choose to fight Volzdik? He could have fought And so I'm like, well, shit. Kovalev accomplished. Then we know that Kovalev fight, that shit was some bullshit. Kovalev threw that fight. But I'm like, it ain't Canelo's fault. Curtis Anderson was good with it. Kurt Anderson. Salute to you, my brother. Mr. Finesse off in the building. What's good with it? So I'm like, it ain't Canelo's fault that motherfucking Kovalev wanted a big payday and took a dive. I said myself that I don't think Canelo knew about it, and I don't think he had nothing to do with that shit. So why y'all shitting on Canelo? Bam. I'm still taking up for Canelo. Now, fast forward to now. Canelo still ducking Jamal Charlo, right? 5+ years still ducking Jamal Charlo. Now I'm starting to get irritated with Canelo, but I'm still on here defending Canelo. Like, won't y'all just chill and wait and see who he fight next? Now, Canelo, you know what I'm saying? He, not no Triple G fight. I don't want to see no Triple G fight. So I was with Canelo on that. Like, fuck Triple G. Like, you didn't already fought this man. This last fight y'all had, it showed that Triple G cannot beat you. Triple G need to take his ass on somewhere and fight somebody. I would get on Triple G ass, but that's a whole different story. You know what I'm saying? He not even relevant. But so I'm like, okay, let's see who Canelo gonna fight. He moved up. He moving up and down in weight. He's still fighting tough opponents. Now, you got Demetrius Andrade out there, right? He don't want to fight him. You got Jamal Charlo still begging to fight you. You don't want to fight him. Okay, well, cool. So people saying, well, Canelo don't want to fight them because Canelo probably don't want to go back down to 160. Okay, bam. Well, we got Caleb Plant out there. We got David Benavidez. You don't want to fight neither one of them, right? Now, David Benavidez loses his title on the scale, right? You lingering around. Now you pop up and you go petition to get a fight for David Benavidez's vacant belt against Yildirim, a guy that you was sparring, that you used to beat up in sparring. So, right, we let you get a pass for that Rocky Fielding bullshit when you moved up and you fought Rocky Fielding to try to fucking grab an easy belt, right? We like, oh, well, it was just an easy belt grab. It was an easy warm-up, right? Not this time, because now not only have you been ducking Demetrius Andrade, Jamal Charlo, Caleb Plant, you didn't want no parts of that WBC belt at 168 when David Benavidez had it. But as soon as he loses the belt on the scales, you hop your fucking yellow carrot top ass up, and now all of a sudden you petitioning with the WBC to get a fight against Yildirim because this is the same guy that you were sparring in the past, beating his ass in sparring because you know you could beat him. Now I'm back to feeling the same way about Canelo that I used to feel about him. Fuck a Canelo. You know what I'm saying? Period. I'm through defending Canelo. First, you take a franchise WBC franchise belt, right? So you don't have to fight none of the tough opponents. So you can pick and choose around. We gave you a pass for that. No more. You ain't getting no more passes. How can you defend something like this? How? You hopped your ass up real quick and damn near broke your neck trying to get a fight for the WBC vacant title at 168 because your former sparring partner was going to be your opponent for the vacant belt and you knew you could beat him easy. What type of bullshit is that? But you call yourself the best fighter in boxing and you call yourself the face of boxing, right? Dom Reese says Callum Smith as well. You duck Callum Smith as well. You ducking all of these opponents, but soon as you get an easy opponent that you know you can beat, you hop up and you break your neck to fight him. What kind of bullshit is that? Cassandra Mason said, we all know Kovalev took a dive. Oh, that's a fact. When have you seen Kovalev go 12 straight rounds throwing weak jab, not putting no power behind his punches? Never. And you probably will never see it again. Like, what are you doing? And the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman, this man is so corrupt. He doing everything he can. Like Canelo, you know Canelo, one thing is for sure. Canelo got him paid off. Mauricio Suleiman runs the WBC like a mob drug boss. If you pay him off and you good, he gonna do everything he can to go around the rules, to bend the rules, to do certain things to get these guys that's paying him off, you know, at the top of, he gonna do anything for you. All you gotta do is slide him a little bread and you good. It's a fact. He's showing that. You know what I'm saying? Mauricio Suleiman, he's corrupt. The WBC is corrupt. How can you basically come up and order a fight with Canelo and Yildirim, right? And they said like, oh, well, Canelo, he the one that, petitioned for it. You got all of these other fighters at the and you have all of these other fighters, right? At 168, right? You could have gave Benavidez a chance to get his title back. You didn't want to do that, right? Cool. You could have gave Caleb Plant a chance to go for the WBC title and fight for that. You didn't want to do that, right? You could have gave you could have gave you could have even gave Callum Smith a chance to go get the WBC title. You didn't want to do that. You got all of these names at 168, but you choose to let Canelo Alverez, a guy that's only had one fight at 168 and didn't fight nobody, you choose to let him skip all of them guys, get in the front of the line, and give him a title shot, something that he hasn't earned, without wanting to fight any tough opponents at 168? Think about that shit. And so now y'all gonna tell me that Canelo Alvarez and other fighters don't have the WBC in their pocket, ain't sliding them a little bread on the side? You know what I'm saying? Not sliding them a little bread on the side, like, yeah, you're Yildirim. That makes sense because Yildirim was the next man up, right? He was actually supposed to fight David Benavidez for that title, right? But that fight fell out. So Yildirim was going to be the next man up, period. So they already knew who one fighter was going to be. How did Canelo get there? How did Canelo get there? How did he slide in there? He slid some bread. Like, oh, I'm going to take care of you, Mauricio Suleiman, and you take care of me. How you think he got the WBC franchise title? So Mauricio Suleiman, when you ask him, well, why'd you make Canelo the WBC franchise title champion? He tells you, oh, we gave the franchise title to Canelo so Canelo can make the biggest fights in boxing. So Canelo don't have to be worried about facing mandatory challengers that nobody know about. This is what Mauricio Suleiman tells you if you ask him, why did he make Canelo Alvarez the franchise champion? Let's go back. He says, because so that Canelo don't have to be worried about facing mandatory challengers that's unknown that nobody wants to see. So Canelo can go and fight the biggest, toughest opponents in that weight division. So, have we seen him fight the biggest, toughest opponents? No. We've seen him do the exact opposite. We've seen him cherry picking around opponents because he's the franchise champion, right? Now, you was willing to let him go to WBC for 168 for the WBC title and do the same shit. Now you gonna lock up two divisions and not fight nobody and be able to fight whoever you want to fight. But the funny thing is, they see through Canelo's bullshit. They see through WBC's bullshit. The Zone said, nah, not today. Not today, Canelo. If you want to fight for that WBC title against Yildirim, somebody that nobody knows, I know who he is, but unless you are just a super diehard boxing fan, you don't know who he is. If you want to fight against him, I don't know where you're going to do it at because we're not paying for it. You ain't fighting on the Zone against that dude. So the Zone is like, we're not giving you no more big paydays to cherry pick around opponents. You either going to fight big opponents that's going to make big fights over here on the Zone, or we not paying for it, and you can take me to court. Period. See, this is the thing with Canelo. Canelo got that big deal, right? He got that big lucrative deal 360 something plus mil or whatever for 11 fights, right? When Canelo got that deal in his head, he like, all right, I got paid. Now it's signed in contract. Now I can fight whoever I want to fight, right? I can fight Rudy Poot opponents all day and they still got to pay me. But the zone is like, nah, fuck that. Your Rudy Poot opponents, your cherry picking days is up, right? So you either going to fight big name opponents that the fans want to see you fight, or we're not paying for it. And you know what I'm saying? We're going to be at a standstill. What you want to do? So like I said, it's no more defending Terence Crawford, and it sure ain't no more defending Canelo Alverez. I'm keeping the same energy all the way around the board. Who next? Who's next? And everybody that's in here watching, you know, I challenge y'all to keep the same energy. Don't change up when it's a fighter that you like. Keep the same energy. If it's a fighter that's showing you a history of some bullshit, keep the same energy that you do with that fighter that you would do for a fighter that you don't like. And that's all I'm saying. Because if we do that as boxing fans, I bet you these fighters, they'll change up the way they move. You know what I'm saying? So that's just what it is. Don Reek says, I saw Yildirim get smashed by Eubanks Jr. That's why I know who he is. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? But you want to go and break your neck to fight him? That's just like, right? So what if the NBA, right? NBA right now, right? Let's use the Lakers, right? Or whatever team you want to use, right? What if the best team, right, in the league is like, you know, who won the championship last year for Toronto Raptors. Let's use the Toronto Raptors as an example, right? And the Kansas City Chiefs. What if the Kansas City Chiefs and the Toronto Raptors was like, look, we won the Kansas City Chiefs, like we won the Super Bowl last year. Toronto Raptors is like, we won the NBA championship last year. We the A side. So we already did what we got to do. We don't want to play none of the tough teams this year. We don't want to play none of, like, okay, the 49ers, they got a good team this year. Nah, we don't want to play them. We'll play the Raiders instead. Week 5. We gotta play the Ravens. Nah, we don't want to play them. We don't want to play them. We'll play the Denver Broncos instead. The Toronto Raptors. We gotta play the Clippers tomorrow. We gotta play the Clippers next month on that day. Nah, we don't want to play them. We'll play the Orlando Magic instead. What if other sports was like that? To be the best, you got to beat the best. You don't get to cherry pick. Boxing is the only sport you get to cherry pick around your way to the top of the game. What kind of shit is that? And we gonna support that? We gonna support that? Come on, think about it. Let's think about that shit. We gonna support. You don't get to do that in no other sport, right? You don't UFC. You don't get to do that shit in the UFC. In the UFC, if you want to beat the best, you gotta fight the best. You gotta fight your way up to the best. It ain't no, well, I'm gonna go over there and fight the UFC welterweight fucking bronze champion. I don't want to fight I fight the bronze champion. What kind of bullshit is that? I thought in sports, whether it's combat sports or sports, whatever type of sports, it was, if you want to be called the best, you got to beat the best. Terence Crawford, Canelo Alverez, So what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Let me know, what are we doing? And you know, it's not just the fighters, it's the fans. The fans, a lot of y'all be on that bullshit. Because if it's somebody you like, you'll go a lifetime, their whole career making excuses for them. That shit ends. It gotta end. So, with that being said, Canelo Alvarez, same as for Terence Crawford. If Canelo Alvarez don't fight a big name, a tough opponent, Yildirim ain't gonna do it. If he don't fight a tough opponent, his next fight, I'm on his fucking helmet. That's just what it is. We got to start holding these fighters accountable. If they have a resume of doing bullshit, we got to hold them accountable and hold them to that bullshit that they've been doing. Period. J.A. Dixon says it's sad too because they both have skills. They do. You can't deny Canelo's skills. You can't deny Terence Crawford's skills. But the thing you can deny is who they choose to fight, and they not fighting nobody. Now, don't get me wrong. Canelo got a hell of a resume. That's why I defended Canelo so much. But you still young. You don't get a pass like that. You cannot continue to go on and skip around the top level opponents. You got Jamal Charlo. You got that you've been ducking. You got Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade that you've been ducking, right? Then we can go to 168. You got Caleb Plant. You got David Benavidez. You got Callum Smith. You got a plethora of opponents that you can fight in 2 weight classes. And you choosing to duck and hide and fight who? And fight who? I'm not even going to talk about 168 because I don't really hold you accountable at 168 because that's really not your weight class. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to hold you to 168, but 160 and 168, 160 pound and 168, I can sit here and we can name top opponents all night that you need to fight. So what's up? What you going to do? You know what I'm saying? And they're not opponents that don't nobody know about. These are all big fights. They all big fights. So what are you doing? Like I said, think about before I end this, y'all just think about if you watch football, baseball, basketball, whatever other sports you watch, UFC, think about if the top teams, right, got to say, nah, I don't want to face that team. I'd rather face that team because they easier. Because that's what these fighters is doing. And they say, well, we put our body on the line. Football players put their body on the line every motherfucking weekend. Right? They don't get to choose and pick who they play from one week to another. UFC fighters put their body on the line. They do not get to choose and pick who they play from or who they fight. They don't get to choose it. They don't get to say, well, I ain't fucking with him. He too good. I'll fight him for a goddamn fucking purple belt. Nah, man. Danny Williams says, make it one champ per division, and the champion has to fight a top 10 contender every defense. And that's some real shit, Danny Williams. But you know what happened if that happened? You know what happened, Danny Williams, if that happened? A lot of these fighters will get exposed. A lot of these fighters that we talking about on a daily basis, we wouldn't even know who the fuck they are. Real shit. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's why I get that. That's why I don't see how people can come and shit on fighters like Errol Spence. Right? Like shit on fighters like Errol Spence. That man fighting the top competition every time you see him get in the ring, right? Shit on fighters like like Vasil Lomachenko. Look at his resume. Look at all the top fighters he's fought, right? You'll shit on them fighters, but then you'll give excuses to Tank Davis, Terence Crawford. What are we doing here? You'll say, oh, well, they stars. They don't have to, they get to do what they want. What are we doing here? Do you want to see the best fight the best, or do you not? Make up your mind. Anyway, like I said, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I'm finna go watch these NBA games. The NBA playoffs is on. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like I said, I hadn't been able to come on here because I had to upgrade some stuff. You see the quality is well a lot better. And I will be back on here tomorrow. We got a whole lot of more boxing to cook on, a whole lot to talk about. From now on, like I said, the Terence Crawford, that stuff, I don't even want to really talk about that shit no more until I see him. I'm not talking about no Terence Crawford no more until I see who he fighting next. Until that shit is signed, sealed on the dotted line, period, right? It's a whole lot of other things that's going on in boxing that need to be covered, that need to be talked about, and that's what I'm finna do. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And you already know how I do. Hit my like button before you leave the building. Subscribe to the channel, Everything Boxing and Sports on YouTube. And you already know how I do. There you go, talking that boxing again. I don't watch reality TV. I watch boxing. And anything ain't everything, but around here, everything boxing. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like I said, come tune in tomorrow, and I'm out.